Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Game over here on Cap Crossing. This is where us three game masters, different experiences and different styles, come together and just chit chat, sharing tips, tricks, and do a little debating all about tabletop role playing games. So today's topic comes from Cyber Symbiosis and aka Woody. And what are we talking about today?
Well, I remember some years back when I was working on that book about how to be a game master that I will release eventually, and I was reading about the 7 types of stories in literature. Theory says that there are 7 types of stories, and you can only tell 7 types, right? And I might go so far as to say maybe those are the 7 ones that are successful, that work. I feel like there must be more, but like for the purposes of this topic, I was looking at that, and it kind of like, hey, there it is. So I was rather taken with how inappropriate they were for role-playing games, because these kind of fall in the category of like, these stories work when you're writing a novel or a comic or a TV show or movie or whatever it is, but like they don't really work for RPGs, but they do simplify the process of how to write a book because you know what kind of story you're to tell. So I was thinking of like how to break this down into the greater simplicity for role-playing games. It must be a similar list for us, right? That works for what we do. And so I spent the last couple of years trying to come up with that list, and I came up with something, and so far it holds up under all scrutiny from anyone that examines it. And so
it sounds like a challenge, people.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. So like, and it's because like if you're a game master, right, and it can be a big, I talked to a lot of people that they feel really overwhelmed by the process, right? So if you can break it down into simplicities, like if you're telling a story, if there's only so many types of stories, you can just pick one from the list and run that. And then it kind of makes it easier because you get rid of all this other stuff, right? Before we get into that list, do you guys have any thoughts on the theory behind something like this? Like, does this do you think that this has weight before we get into the actual list or not? Like, what's your thought? Because I know you guys have seen the list. We've heard me talk about it for the last year, but
I think it helps to have, when you're trying to sit down and write it, if you're trying to write your own adventure, it helps to have some starting points, some ideas for frameworks. And book ones that work for fiction and television are not going to work exactly the same because you're in control of everything. You're not in control of everything in role playing, and it's also truly an ensemble cast story. Television often focuses on one protagonist, even though it's kind of an ensemble. They
tend to,
I don't want to talk about it too much without getting into the list, because it feels like we're just talking in the clouds without really.
That's fair.
Giving an example.
Well, I originally had 8 items, and when I was trying to like come up with one of my friends came up with a 9th one, but after that, it's basically been stopped right there. But okay, well let's do it. So okay, so the 9 types we. What? Sorry, what?
Sorry, you said let's do it. Always think Leroy Jenkins.
There we go. So the 9 types we came up with, or the different types of stories that can occur in and bear in mind, this is like a cooperative storytelling sense where people are a participant in the activity as opposed to reading and experiencing, right? Like this is specifically in a particular context of this kind of storytelling. But you basically have, the first one is the rescue. The second one is the treasure hunt. Then we have defeat a threat. We have exploration. We have a heist. Protection, like protecting someone or something. We have the mystery, as opposed to mysteries in general. This is like a storytelling format. We have revenge, and then we have the escape. And the escape was one that my friend had come up with, because she pointed out that some campaigns start with escaping for something, like being in prison or whatever, right? So
Greg has never done that.
Yeah,
never.
No, not at all. But we haven't found anything else to add to the list. It seems to hold up, and every time somebody suggests something, it's either an overcomplication of the list, or you can just add it, or it adds to something that's already there.
What about the bake sale contest?
The bake sale. I think the bake sale would be the treasure hunt, because you're trying to make money.
So, what if you have the competition?
The competition?
Yeah, you could do that.
Well, because you're defeating a threat. You have an enemy that you're trying to overcome.
Okay.
See,
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I could see it as a
Well,
there's a system for writing called Story Grid, and one of their, I can't remember if it's considered a genre or not, is like the sports TV shows, movies, sports competition ones. That's kind of what we're tap dancing around with that concept.
Well,
so
the thing is, if you do have a competition, it's a competition to do what, right?
Yeah.
And then once you ask that question, suddenly it becomes a competition to rescue the princess. They hire a bunch of people to find the treasure, to explore something, you know?
So that's actually an important point that came up in this, because like every time somebody, that's the case right here, right? Every time somebody said, well, what about this as a storytelling type? But like almost every time somebody has done that, it's like they're suggesting a plot point or a qualifier on a story type, right? So like if you go, well, we're, what about my arch enemy, right? Well, you're defeating a threat, right? So it's like so far it's still holding up, right? Because like there is a difference between a storytelling format or a style of a story versus a plot point that the characters would engage with within that context.
What I notice with this is very often you try to say, well, what about this scenario where you have to go to Mount Doom in order to rescue someone who's captured there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's protected by a big bad whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of 3 potentially, right? There's involved, but really what it comes down to is, I think what you're saying is you have like let's say overall story plot. And then you have, every overall story plot has subplots.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this one could be, yes, the thing is the rescue. Mm-hmm. But when you get there, you have to first, there's a mystery to be solved, like how they did it. Right.
Yep.
And then you get, well, I don't know what I did there, but, and then, you get what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes, and then you have to defeat a threat because you find a sub boss or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, because you're going to go through different storylines throughout the course of the campaign. Like things will come up, and you have like, oh, this will be fun. Let's have a mystery, and then like you can do all those things, like because you have the overall story arc, but then these are like the different adventures coming through, and you might have some of these might even apply. Multiple of these might apply to the same session, because you have maybe multiple unresolved story arcs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's maybe there's a mystery, somebody stole something, but you're still in the process of defeating that overall bad guy, or you have the goal of revenge against something. That doesn't
I could almost
necessarily
see a really good book on this that course, I don't know what you call it, source book, that would literally have, pages where you'd have each one of these guys would be broken out, and you would have, I don't even know how to draw this, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you could roll a d20 and just get like an idea for a basic plot for each one of them as like a starting point. Imagine you have like, you need like a sub quest, or something like that, and it's like, oh, I need a sub quest. I'll just roll on this. Okay, we're gonna defeat a threat. What's the threat? Okay, I roll on that.
Yeah. I think that can get into high complexity, though, because doing a bunch of random roll charts would be good. But you could also, like, there's so much variety in how people can have their characters set up that it could collapse under its own weight. But it
would have to be just basic 1 sentence plot point or something like that.
Yeah,
that just gets the creative juices flowing or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think Shadow Dark has that. They just have pages like, hey, if you're in the desert, roll a d100. Here's 100 different random things that could occur. It's just
OSR's
like 1
big
sentence.
on that.
Yeah.
That kind of randomness, and help you have to improvise with that random element.
Yeah, I do agree. They tend to struggle on how to categorize that stuff. Like Shadow Dark just does it by location you're in, which makes some sense. But sometimes you want something generic, because the thing is, almost all of these, you could probably make 100 basic ones with 1 sentence explaining what it is for each of these, and it would pretty much be area agnostic. It would be mostly agnostic to everything except the plot point.
Yeah, but what I like about this, though, is it does, even though there's 9 things, it still breaks it down into a basic simplicity. Like, you have a very limited set of categories. Any new game master can sit down and go, oh, I get it. I see, and I just pick one that's interesting, and that's what I build as my primary idea around the adventure, rather than just having everything and being overwhelmed with it all. You just go, okay, well, let's do an escape story, and then you can build that around a concept, and or build your story around that concept. And I find it interesting that, like, looking at every successful campaign I've ever run, they all pretty easily fall into these categories. The one that I did, like I did one where they just started out with an escape from a prison ship, and that one went for a while, and it was engaging and very successful in pulling, getting the guys excited to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
As a sub thing, sometimes this happens to me. Uh, I start out with like an overall plot point. This
Mhm.
happens to Dragon Heist almost every single time that I run it, which hasn't
Yeah.
been that many times. But I starts out with like the main thing is the heist, right?
Yeah.
It starts out with that, and then there's like a threat somewhere. There's someone's threatening, and what ends up happening is this guy just expands and becomes the main point.
Yeah.
To the point where this one becomes overall just like, oh, that gold somewhere. We might get that sometime. But
well, that
yeah,
whole one is pretty much like a big treasure hunt story, but
yeah.
that's an interesting point too, because like it's what the players get engaged with,
Yep.
and they have to pick their objectives, and they may very well decide that, oh well, this is the thing I care about, and then you naturally have to pivot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it's a good, I want to say literary, but it's a good categorization.
Yeah.
To It should make it easy, because a lot of times the first step is very overwhelming for GMs to come up with like an overarching idea.
Yeah.
And if you have this, you can just basically pick one. Just read down the list until something pings in your mind, and then just go with it. And then after that, it's just, okay, we need like some subplots to get to that end
Well,
state.
once you get rolling, it starts to take care of itself in a lot of ways too.
Mhm.
Once the story's got some feet, it kind of just has its own momentum. Mark, were you trying to jump in there and say something?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I think I was going to ask if at some point, I don't know if I vocally said anything, but I was wondering, like, which of these do you feel like when you create your own ones, do you feel like you use often? Is there one or two that you fall back on quite a bit, or
For me, I don't think there is one, because like I try not to do the same thing twice. Like I'm very big on variety. When it comes to storytelling, but it's like, you kind of have to like look at who your characters are, and then that establishes a lot of the roadmap, for what the campaign's going to be. And I don't tend to do that thing where I've got the whole thing planned out in advance, or like if I do, it's only in a very general sense. Because like right now we're doing a multiverse campaign, and I knew that there's a particular kind of character that needed to be in the group, and fortunately one of my players was down for it. For having these group that's just bouncing from world to world and reality to reality. And then once that character was established, it kind of just, it didn't matter what everybody else was playing. We just needed that way to get them, moving on that part of the story. But like, it's like that one starts with the revenge because of the way I set it up. But the players had to also engage with that aspect of it, right? And then, and all of these have kind of come into play in the course of that campaign, right? Like we've had a rescue, and they've had gone on treasure hunts, and they've certainly done exploration, because there's been a couple of dungeon crawls over the course of it. But the revenge is definitely the overarching story, and that. But yeah, no, there is not really one. I think that if you're doing it right, you're going to be doing all of these things.
Yeah, I end up doing all of them, but I definitely almost always end up with defeat the threat as the main bad one.
I do.
Which I will say, I don't know what I think about revenge, because it's pretty rare that I see revenge that's not also defeat the threat.
Well, yeah, and there is some similarity there, but the thing is that, and I think Marks can back me up on this, is that based upon the kinds of players I've dealt with over the years, uh, payback can definitely factor in more than defeating because like defeating a threat is like you have to defeat the evil empire, or Palpatine's out there and we have to save the galaxy. But there's also like the revenge storyline is so prevalent in comics like Knights at the Dinner Table. The stereotype has to come from somewhere, right? And
it makes it more personal for the player and the character, right? So it's good.
So you're saying it's more like the driving, even though they're both defeat a threat, it's more what's the driving factor in it.
Yeah, well, because one of the techniques that I've found over the years that's very successful, right? And it's a difficult point because not everybody gets it, the subtlety of it. But like when you're dealing with the situation of like how to engage your players with the plot and get them to really like feel like they're part of it and they want to continue. Sometimes you have to make things kind of personal, and I'm not saying like murder their mom necessarily, or like being very like I'm coming after your ass, but like there is an aspect of engaging with their backstory and making the events of the story they're part of it, right? Where you structure the campaign in a way where this character is intrinsic to the events going on, and so. But when you do that, you run into situations where if they're that well connected and there's a main villain, that villain has done something that has affected them personally. And so having a need to, like the revenge aspect of it could be very, very, very central to that experience. More so than just simply, oh no, we have to save the kingdom. No, that this guy did something to me. He's the reason why my family fell from grace. Screw him. I'm it's like, we got to, and in the case of my current campaign, the one player character is the only survivor of a ship that crashed. And, the one character who we're getting revenge against murdered everybody else. And so she's the only one that escaped being killed. And so it's like, my friend is feeling quite motivated to take this a-hole down. So,
yeah, in fiction, when you write stories, especially when you have one protagonist, you usually are trying as best you can to bring the stakes and everything as close to the characters you can. Usually rewarding as an experience, and rather than just being like, I just randomly fell into this weird thing, and I don't really care, but I guess I'll go beat up some people. It's harder to do that in role-playing games because you don't control everything.
And you have a lot of different motivations.
And also a lot of players tend to have that clinical detachment from it, where they're just there to play the game. They don't really get into the motivations of the story so much.
Well, I'll say this. I am very much character-focused mostly, more so than plot-focused in my stuff. And I also often have if circles are players, I often definitely have it to where it does end up being something like one person's interested in that money, one person's interested in getting revenge, one person is just trying to escape the authorities, hiding low or something. And I don't know what to do about that. That becomes harder.
I think that's the ideal. If you can get those characters to have a personal stake and goal in the story and be different ones, that's great. That will really immerse them in the story, unless they're just a casual player who doesn't care. But if they're showing up and care about the story, then it will really immerse them in the story and give them to care about everything a lot.
Yeah. Well, like the campaign that I've got right now, or the multiverse campaign, I think that like to some degree, every one of these things either has happened or is currently going on, right? Because like the character is kind of like central to the storyline. Certainly, revenge is a motivator. The rest of the players have kind of gotten in on, like, they're very much enjoying the adventure, but it is like, well, they're down for defeating this threat. If their friend needs to do it, we're going for it. As a GM though, the main challenge, of course, is to make it so that like they're invested enough that if they ever make it back to their home universe, they have a reason to stay on the ship. Kind of like the John Crichton problem in Farscape. Where like, well, they had to come back to Earth, but he obviously chooses to leave, and that happened organically, and it made sense. And so, we certainly want to have that. But like, they've had many treasure hunt scenarios where they had to go find something of value, or they needed fuel for the ship that they've set up, and there are things that they needed. Times they had to rescue somebody, and there's they had a protection mission very early on, actually, where they were defending a settlement that was being under siege. And so, like, all of these factors have come into play to some degree.
Yeah, I would say for me, like when I play, sometimes it's shaped by the game too. Like Monster of the Week is very much usually a mystery because you're trying to figure out the monster or what's going on, and then that will eventually turn into defeat a threat, right? Because you have a monster you have to fight. Whereas like Shadow Dark, by default at least, unless you add in more layers of story, I think it's usually a exploration meets treasure hunt, right? That's you're hunting for treasure.
It's the classic dungeon crawl scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you, of course, you can layer more onto it and layer in some other stuff. But
well, that's an interesting point where like I keep making the argument that like, yeah, you can have a series of action set pieces, but you still need something to tie it all together, right? Where like the classic gameplay dynamic was just, let's go underground, explore ancient ruins. There's a civilization that failed, but we don't care. It doesn't matter, because we're it's all about treasure and beating the monsters, and like the innovation of storyline kind of evolved over time.
Yeah,
but now I think
Ravenloft or Dragonlance were big influences.
Yeah, but I think even in the context of classic gameplay, like we'll say with OSR games, the old school Renaissance, but like, or revival, but like, I think that the storyline aspect of it is so intrinsic to the experience now that it's even in old school classic style gameplay, you still have to have like you have to engage with a narrative. It's a little hard to avoid, and this kind of gives you a framework to establish that narrative. And
so interesting. I think without like the thing that makes Shadow Dark hard to talk about these topics, in my opinion, is that unless you're doing a long running game, there's not much player motivation there, right? Because you're just dungeon diving and it's almost like a game trying to level up your character through dungeon diving. It's like playing Hero Quest.
And you get your XP from your treasures. So
yeah.
Well, but a lot of people
if you have players with their own motivations and attachments and stuff like that, suddenly you can have these plot motivations, as I was calling it here, that will drive the story for some ultimate motivation.
Well, there are a lot of groups using Shadow Dark as a template for long-form storytelling.
Yeah. Oh, I've done it too. Yeah. I will say it doesn't fit perfectly, but
there's the Dungeon Damsel on her channel. They do it. I have a friend who's on that show, and that's the only game they play, and they've got a long-running campaign.
That'd be interesting.
Had a Kickstarter, right?
They just had a successful Kickstarter.
There is more of that happening. I think, like, by default, what Kelsey Dion does is she leaves. I think really, rather than saying like you don't do it, which I think some people by default go that way, they just do it straight up how it is. I think what probably Kelsey wants, I don't know, maybe not, but what you could at least do is she leaves openings, breadth in there, to room for you to add in the story that you want and fit the setting into whatever world you have.
I just think you end up having to homebrew it a bit to do that, like we did when we did our longer one. But it works if you do that. It's such an open system; you can do that easily, which I guess is fine.
Well, like with the games that I'm writing, one of the things I like to do is when I'm I find it very workable to throw in like a series of story prompts, as like just have a random roll chart and just a list of ideas, and you just run down the list, and you've got like 4 or 5 paragraphs, or for sentences in a paragraph. I mean, and it's just it's more of like just like kind of get the juices flowing, but it's like it just gives you a whole bunch of ideas for here's a storyline that could exist within the universe, and it serves 2 purposes, because one, you have that thing to kind of get the creativity flowing with the game master is looking for an inspiration of what to do with the story, but it also is handy because with very few pages of material, you are establishing what this world is like, and the tone of it, and the kind of environment it is, and it seems to be a pretty successful way of accomplishing 2 different things. Like, you don't have to get into a huge lore dump on the world. This kind of like these archetypal ideas kind of just accomplish that.
I also think to combine some ideas we talked about, it might be kind of cool, Shadow Dark, and maybe somebody's done it in one of the other books, but you know how you always start with rumors, you roll a rumor and stuff, locations. It'd be cool to also have like motivation. Like if someone doesn't have one, you just roll randomly, and that's your motivation for why you get.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like they do in D&D, they have you roll those tables that no one uses called like bonds and ideals and stuff like that.
I'm not using them.
You what?
Yeah.
They use them more than they use inspiration.
Yes, they do.
Well, I feel like you're insulting me there, but that's fine. But yeah, I think you could have something like that. Like, hey, your background has one of these, and then you roll it, and then you have to make it up as a player.
Oh, like as an overall goal for your character.
Yeah, like a character goal.
It'll be very OSR because it's random too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's what those bonds and ideals are actually, right?
They are.
Well, they're kind of like story prompts. They kind of help you build up your character's personality. But like I actually kind of find them, that sort of thing, weirdly restrictive. It's like, these are the only choices you get. That's weird.
Oh yeah, I don't like it.
Whereas this would be like open, very open.
Yes, exactly. Well, see, like for me, I've said this before, but like I don't even enforce alignments anymore. I mean, if you want to do it, knock yourself out. But like, you know, the complexity of people and how you want to behave and how they do behave or don't, like it's way more to it than an alignment system. And I think it works in terms of game mechanics, but in terms of people, it's not very realistic.
Yeah, well, Tales of the Valiant got rid of it. They don't even have it in their 5e version.
So. Well, I did the same thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Like it's on my Patreon just because I basically just cut the page altogether. I didn't even leave it as an optional thing because it was like, this is unimportant. I need that space for the things. It's gone. But
I feel like even D&D did a bit too. Yeah. We could actually talk about that. I think we have an argument about that, Marks and I, on the channel somewhere.
I think we do on Fixing the Game. I think we argued about it.
But we could totally...
I ended up doing something else with alignment. Like I just basically had a kind of like a prompt section where it talks about like, okay, well, figure out what your character's going to be like, and I gave a few some points, but I'm not really going to say, hey, here's an alignment system. So
what I love is what they did in. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say I so want to go off of that too, but it's such a different topic.
Oh, yeah. Let me say this real quick and then we'll go. Along those lines, what I really liked in second edition of Mutants Masterminds, which they got rid of, unfortunately, is they have virtues and vices. So you pick like a couple of virtues, maybe a vice and stuff, and you play into that. And I think that's a really great way to get some character personality real fast. So if someone's lost on how to make their character, I think that's more beneficial than like your neutral evil or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of my 9 types, does it hold up for you guys though? Like, I mean, obviously it's a useful list, clearly, but like, does it hold up? Do you guys think? I mean, I spent 2 years coming up with this. Talked to lots of friends, you know, researched it, tested it, tried to find it. I can't find anything that violates it or anything to add to it.
Well,
what do you guys think?
I realized 15 minutes is a little bit less than 2 years, but I can't really think of anything.
There we go.
Yep. No, I think I can think of things, but they could be subtypes within it.
Exactly. Every time somebody comes up with something right now, like I show this to somebody and they're like, oh, what about this? And it's like, yeah, but that's this category, or it's a
combo.
Yeah. Or it's a plot point that you use to kind of fill out the story. That's not a.
What about man versus shark? Why don't you have that?
Oh yes, yeah, that'd be perfect. Yes, there we go. Yeah, that is a storyline. No, but it's like, I mean, there's a big difference between a plot point and a storytelling template.
You're thinking about what I just said. You're man versus nature. Yeah.
What if it's like
exploration could maybe fall into that? Yeah.
No. What if it's like protecting a city from an oncoming like weather effect that you know is going to come in a week, and it's like all the things you do to prepare.
Well, in our big the big Cyber Symbiosis playtest campaign we did, right before I released the game, my wife did defeat some bad guys with a Sharknado.
Nice.
Yeah,
just a little twister with some sharks in it.
Well, they were basically having a battle between the use of controlled water. 2 people had it. My wife cast it, and somebody else did, and they were taking control of a swimming pool, and they were shoving water back and forth, and so the bad guys had wrestled control of it and had created this whirlpool in the like around them of water, and so they had this water barrier, and they were gearing up for a big attack. And so my wife's like, "Oh, I'm going to get rid of the spell. I'll drop concentration and do conjure animals," and summons a bunch of sharks into it.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm like, okay, I love it because she was very big on the coming up with creative ways to do things and not do the same thing every time. Which
we should talk about something like that.
Yeah. I know it leads into our next topic very well.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll talk about something like that.
We just might. But I'm very curious to see if anybody in the comments has any input on my 9 types, or if somebody's like, "Oh, did you think of this?" I'm like, son of a bitch. But
they'll have opinions. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But I do think it'll hold up though. Like it's, I believe it does, because like there has to be a list like this. If it exists for literature, it must exist for a different storytelling medium as well.
Smuggling. I guess that'd be like you're smuggling across the galaxy in a Firefly class ship.
It kind of like is smuggling all kind of falls under the heist category.
Similar to heist, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a plot point. Like,
and that's another thing. Like a game like Scum and Villainy, for example, is all heists a lot, right?
I keep forgetting this is like focused. Plot motivations. It's not just like, hey, here's an element of the story.
yeah. This is the whole thing. Well, because like if you're smuggling, you have a reason to smuggle,
right?
It isn't the entire purpose, So there is an overall goal, and so the smuggling aspect, I think, would be a plot point as opposed to.
Well, what about if we just put money? Hey, come on, who doesn't like money?
Well, that's not the whole purpose.
You're not sharing your screen if you're supposed to be typing that on something.
Oh.
I was writing it. I wrote a big money.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I felt like there was something there.
Yeah. That. Well, let's see. Rescue the treasure hunt, Greg.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought of that was more like Indiana Jones type, going and finding some artifact, but
fortune and glory. Well, I mean, money is a solid motivation if you're playing the original Breadbox D&D.
Yeah.
And, but if you're playing the thief, but it's
I think it's I don't know. Would that be a motivation? I don't know. Either way, I think this is pretty exhaustive. Even if you're talking about money, you're probably doing one of these things to get money.
Yeah, but this is the overall storytelling style or format, right? Yeah. Like again, like a personal motivation or like a character goal can be very different from this list as well. It becomes a plot point.
You can
to qualify it.
Yeah, you can make a campaign around characters after they tell you their backstories. You can figure out how to make all their backstories kind of coalesce around one of these, which is not a bad way to do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I'm a firm believer that like you're a GM, you figure out kind of generally what you want, you figure out what the parameters are, you get the players pick characters, clearly putting reasonable limitations or allowing whatever, but then once they've actually made those characters and this is what this character is, and hopefully they've given you a backstory to read, like you have your roadmap for the campaign at that point. And so like what you do is based upon what they have chosen to be. It's not the other way around. And you have to, if you want to get to your big lofty goals, you're going through those characters to get there. And I think you're making a huge mistake if you're not considering what they're trying to play.
My head is sweating.
That's probably not much of a surprise.
Yeah, that's my only I don't want to say complaint, but challenge with something like Curse of Strahd is because they get trapped there. Their only motivation is escape, right? Well, there's one that's very focused on escape.
Yeah,
but a lot of subplots probably leading up to eventually trying to escape. Defeat the threat of Strahd, and then all these little mini quests that happen.
But in that particular case, the players know they're going into the Curse of Strahd from the beginning, right? So it still kind of works because you clearly know there are certain characters that should not be. I told them it was a bake sale.
They were surprised.
Yeah, exactly. But no, there are certain characters that shouldn't be in that setting, and as long as they understand, we're doing Curse of Strahd, cool. They're on board. They will make the appropriate characters, to fit. And so,
my character is actually looking for Strahd. Actually, that'd be kind of cool. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, because as I was just telling people that over the weekend that the show was just at. Like when you're doing your first game, you're run a module, and your players are much less likely to screw with you if they are on board with that module because they know there's a story there, and that's what they've agreed to do.
Also, if there's ever a point where you're not sure, you're just like, that's what the module says, and then you can always have like that thing to fall back on. As a very new GM.
Yeah. But, are you sure there's a bake sale in this interest straw?
Yep. But Greg, we're playing the module you wrote.
Oh, that's right. There you go. Well, that's only you, Woody.
Yeah. Okay. We should wrap this one up and move on to the next one.
Let's wrap it up. Let us know.
Go ahead.
Yep. Let us know in the comments what you think. What story plots do these hold up? Are there any exceptions you want to mention?
Yeah.
And also, which ones do you kind of lean towards in your own games, perhaps, or just some of your favorites? So just let us know. Let's make it a conversation. And
I'm sweating everywhere. Jesus Christ!
Until next time, try not to sweat. Don't wear hats like Greg unless you're willing to sweat.
It's made of polyester. The cape
and in your Hobbit cloaks.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when